Hi, I'm Patrick.
And I'm Liv.
And this is the Mach-E vlog.
And we are here at CES 2024. It is literally finishing up. We're about to leave, but we're going to go back home to California to our kitchen and tell you all about our favorite things here at CES 2024. So let's go.
Bye. Now we are home. We've been home for about a day, been gathering all of our footage, photos, and just basically recovering. But CES was fantastic. We were there from Sunday until Friday evening.
Pretty much the entire time that you could be there, we were there.
It was massive. There was a lot of cool stuff that we want to jump right into. Just really fun to see all of the EV stuff. Not a lot of things that are like it's going into production in a couple of months. There were quite a few prototypes and a few EV related things, but let's get into it. The first one that we sort of came across, and this was during the press day on Monday, was the ID7 with AI on board. Liv discovered this while I was waiting for another press conference and actually filmed a little bit in it. But tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it was all by itself. Obviously, they'd had the press event earlier that morning in this exact room, so you can see all the chairs were there and everything. So I was just walking past and I saw this vehicle by itself, and I went and jumped in. And I was not entirely sure how to activate it, but I talked to a couple of people there, and it seems that the Chatgpt is a second step. So you say, "Hey, Ida," and it responds to you, and then you can get information.
Ida or ID? Oh,
Ida.
Okay.
Like Ida's now a person.
Now it's a person.
So Ida. You say, "Hey, Ida," it responds to you just like your Mach-E would or your other EV. But if it cannot respond or cannot give you the information, then it will send the data to Chatgpt anonymously. So it will send it to get more information. So like I said, we weren't at the press event, which was at 8 in the morning. Bummer. But we were able to play around with the car a little bit. And I couldn't, actually neither of us could really get it to Chatgpt what we wanted.
Except to tell you a story about a dinosaur.
Yeah, which was what the VW representative there said it was capable of doing, was tell me a story about a dinosaur. Apparently it can also say things like, you could say, "Hey Ida, what's the best selling EV in the world?" And then it'll answer you. But I feel like...
Well, I think where this can come into play, because I was sort of like, why does it really matter? But like if I'm here, in our hometown and I want to go to a breakfast place, like I have one in mind, I'll just say like navigate to the breakfast place. But if we were, like we were in Vegas, I could see the advantages of being able to say like, "Hey Ida, give me the best breakfast place with a good pancake," or something like that. And then maybe it could, do some selections based on that. We did a Chatgpt day just using our phone and ran around in our Mach-E and had it like pick lunch spots for us and a good scenic drive. So, in that term, in those terms, I could see the advantages of that. But
we couldn't actually get it to do that, though.
Yeah.
We asked it, what are great places to go for brunch in Vegas, and it did not say the Chatgpt prompt. If it doesn't say... according to Chatgpt or something like that, then it's not using it. So we couldn't get it to actually do it.
Great idea, but it was rough around the edges. And, we may not have been doing it correctly. So.
For sure, but I'm open to learning about this more in vehicles because it has potential.
Yeah, I think it could be really cool. There was, of course, a lot of AI stuff. We were sort of joking, like everything at CES this year had to have AI.
That was the buzzword,
yeah,
for sure.
But one of the biggest announcements there that you probably have heard about was the Kia announcements. It was PBV, right? Is the
PBV. Platform Beyond Vehicle. It used to be Purpose-Built Vehicle, I think is what they called that acronym or whatever. But now it's Platform Beyond Vehicle.
So, again, it's like we generally don't like going too far into concepts, but it looks like this Kia concept PV5, they're building a factory now to bring to life a PV5. And it doesn't seem like it would be too challenging to do that. But it's really interesting because it was a whole like ecosystem of modular vehicles of different sizes and configurations. And when I say different configurations, they were literally talking about changing configurations on the fly. And they had like a little demo model that you can see here. So the idea is like you could convert a vehicle from a pickup truck to like a delivery van to a RV type recreational vehicle. So I don't know how like people would be doing that on the fly, or like where would you like store the van segment when you were using the pickup truck segment, but maybe businesses would. But one of the unique things is it was basically going to use like latches and magnets to do the attachment. So that was really cool. But the modularity of it as well means that they can assemble a ton of these and very quickly. I think like they were talking about doing like 150,000 the first year and up to 300,000. So it was really cool. Inside, they thought out a lot of this stuff too. So there's a lot of details to go into with this whole thing, and it's like the chairs are on rails on the floor and can be controlled with an app, and we actually saw them controlling it with an app. So the chair could fold up and then move back if you needed more room or whatever. And then like the center console could raise and lower. The steering wheel could move out of the way if you needed a flat surface. The rails on the inside is like, that's where you mount the speakers and like power supplies and stuff like that. But you can actually take those speakers and then move them to the rail outside. So like if you went to the park and wanted music, you could put the speaker out there. Or if you're on a work site and you needed power on the outside of the vehicle, you move the power outlet on the outside and clip it into the rail. So that was, just some really cool, slick features, I thought. And then they also did these storage systems as well that were modular.
Yeah, so this unit that they showed us was actually carrying a whole bunch of modular storage. And this was like basically part of the last mile, so getting products to people. But then they have another smaller version. Was it the PV1? I think.
Yeah, I think
that's like for the next mile. So let's say you have last mile coming into someone's apartment complex, and then the PV1 would be taking one item, one box off that and taking it to people's homes. And the rail system on this PV1 fitting the PV5 rail system. So being all modular as well in the vehicles as well as the storage.
Hard to explain, but
yeah.
But I also want to just take this PV1 and drive it around because
it's very cute.
It's cute. I don't know. And then this other part that I know that we were both excited about is the wheelchair part.
Yeah, so this vehicle is their PV5. It's their hailing vehicle. So the idea is that this is for rideshare, so that people can call this vehicle and be able to hop in and use it to go wherever they need to. And the fact that it is out of the gate by default wheelchair accessible is incredible. So it comes with this wheelchair lift installed. And this is for smaller dimension wheelchairs. There's still a rear load ability for larger wheelchairs, I believe. But the fact that they considered this is really fantastic. And then the flat floor and everything, and there are places for fixation. Like they're thinking about this and they're designing accessibly first, which I don't feel like this is something that we ever really see. And I actually discussed, we got a tour with Karim Habib, the head of Kia Design, I think, and One Q Kang, he's the head of Kia Future Design. And we talked about like, what about if the driver is in a wheelchair and how there's this gap, so that there's no front passenger space, so the wheelchair could go there, and then the center console can lower so that the driver could transfer themselves. So like when I brought up these concepts, they were very receptive and in agreement. So this seems to be something that they're considering for the future, for sure.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool because they weren't like, oh, that's a good idea. They were like, oh yeah, exactly. That's why we have an option not to have the front passenger seat, and that's why the center console can go down versus going like, oh, we could make that work if we had to.
Yeah, they were not making compromises. And so, by the way, with their whole modular thing, we have a lot to say about Kia because, to be totally honest, for me, it was one of the more exciting announcements. Like, this is a concept. The whole ecosystem is a concept, but it is so fleshed out and so whole that it seems like they're really going for this. And it's like a re-envisioning of how we use our vehicles. So the whole modular thing, the idea is that you have one vehicle, but you can have multiple shells or attachments. So during the work week, you might have the office module or whatever, but then on the weekend, you might have the camping module. So that whole like moving things off and on, they, like Patrick said, we don't know what they're going to do, what they're anticipating, and where people store them or things like that. But perhaps this is something that you share. Like, you'd go to the shop and you'd just get the camping add-on put on because you're going camping with your family or something. And a lot of the concepts that they showed us were incorporating different aspects of people's lives and their flexibility and moving living spaces and being able to use your vehicle as a moving living space, which was also one of the buzzwords. It was sort of an undercover buzzword to me, was like that vehicles are becoming living spaces. And to me, Kia was like the herald of it this year.
There's going to be a lot more to say about that. And of course, these are all concepts, so we don't want to spend too much time, but again, it was so well thought out. It was very impressive. And not just like, here's a concept that we just threw out there and who knows what will ever become of it. Like, their whole booth was dedicated to this. They had the whole press conference. They're building a factory. So it's going to at least start with the PV5. I think end of next year, into 2025, which it's relatively close. So pretty cool. Speaking of concepts, we'll have to get to the next one, which this one created a lot of stir on the internet. And we'll start with the one that's, it sort of reminds me of the PV5.
Yeah.
Is the Honda Space Hub. And it looks a lot like the PV5, but this is just a concept vehicle. They really didn't go into a lot of details on this one, but it's just a van that's an EV. They did, like the wheels actually have like lights built into them, so it was like gimmicky stuff like that they were sort of going over, talking about. And then of course the other one.
Well, it definitely felt like the Space Hub was more of an aesthetic concept, but along the lines of like, hey, everyone's doing this living space sort of thing, so let's do that. It was very much like everyone is lounging around in the back sort of thing. Like, I think the seating is all the way around.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like not at all normal driving environment. It's more of a like lounge, chilling in the lounge, I guess.
We just need the ID buzz to finally make it to the US, But I really think it's neat to, take the like minivan segment and starting to get it populated here. If we could ever get the ID buzz over.
You're crushing on it.
This next one, they call it the Honda Saloon EV. I call it the Honda Countach sedan. If you know a Lamborghini Countach, this sort of has a little bit of that shape, and especially the front end. It got a lot of sort of comical responses when I posted it on Threads online. But I don't know. I think it looks better in person than it does, now that I'm looking at the photos.
It looks way better in person. We got to be right there. Patrick was in the back with the videographers, and I was camped out in the front with the photographers. And we were both like getting cool angles, because it's always exciting when things are covered up and the shapes look really cool. And the Space Hub, and then the saloon was all sleek. So right there, they had this beautiful lighting crisscrossing the roof, and it looked really gorgeous. And I think it still looks very pretty, the saloon. But then someone called it a dustbuster, and now I can't see anything else. So I still think it looks really pretty, but you'll have to let us know what you think of the aesthetics. Obviously, Honda went very aesthetics heavy with this.
And I know that they're also talking about, during the press conference, a lot about the like software-driven vehicle type thing that everybody's sort of talking about. And they're putting a lot of effort into the software in their Honda Zero EVs. So it's going to be interesting. It looked really slick in the little demonstrations that we saw on the screen, and just looking forward to seeing what actually becomes of this. One of the Honda people that we spoke to made it sound like that, yes, this is a concept, but the production may not be too far off from this.
Oh yeah, and actually because the photography area was like right by where the Honda execs were, and one of them said hello to me and then said, "Pay attention to the last sentence," and that was that they're coming.
Yeah, that it really is coming. So.
Yeah.
But this sort of goes to show to me, this is one of the things that I've been waiting for is like we're switching from ICE to EV powertrains, and pretty much nothing has really changed. The cars are looking like the cars have always looked, but I think as we're getting into like basically sort of like second generation of EV design, now it's like, hey, you know what? We have some flexibility in what we can do. Plus, there's a new greater emphasis on aero, so I think we're starting to see a lot of that as well. But not doing aero in the typical way of just making everything very bubble-like. So it'll be neat to see what other manufacturers are doing as well.
It's really exciting that Google is there. Like, there's a whole bunch of cool things going on at CES, and some of it we can't really participate in because we're trying to focus on the car stuff. But Google had a really huge announcement that had to do with Ford, so we got to go to the Google booth, which was exciting.
Yeah, we tried to go to Google last year, but it was just so crowded and we weren't covering Google, so there was no reason for us to actually like wait in line. But what Ford and Google announced is that in the Lightning and in the Mach-E, if you have an Android phone running Android Auto, you will now be able to do EV routing using Google Maps. So that means like, you bring up Android Auto, you enter in your destination, and it will tell you like which your estimated arrival battery percentage will be at. So like if you're just going, to the doctor's office and it's 5 miles away, it'll estimate that. But also if you're say, like going from San Diego to Las Vegas, it will plan out some charging stops for you. So we have a video. I just actually finished editing that and uploading that. Who knows which one will actually get published first?
I think that.
Probably that one. But it isn't perfect right now. It's going to be rolling out in the next few months. Google seemed to say that they were ready. They're waiting on Ford, but then we found some like optimization quirks that aren't great yet. It will not precondition the battery as we were hoping. So we've had this same type of scenario with Apple Maps and CarPlay. It's useful, but it doesn't have the preconditioning, which makes it a little bit less useful. But it's just really nice having this feature. I'm excited by it. So watch for that video. I also get into Android Automotive a little bit and some of the features that are on that. Even though it's not in Ford now, it will be soon. So we were excited. Plus, we get to hop into a Mach-E and talk to the Google people. So we were happy.
Yeah. Another Mach-E that we got to look at was at the Witricity booth. And I feel like we've spoken about them before, haven't we?
We have. I think it was in one of the Detroit videos from not last year, but the previous year. And if you don't know, what they do is they, not just specifically to the Mach-E, but they want to bring wireless charging to all EVs in the future. And, won't spend a ton of time on this because they're still working on it, still getting the contracts done. They are actually have a kit that you can add to the Mach-E, and then you can see the pad there that's under the Mach-E. You have to buy that as well, of course. So it's a bit pricey, but the one of the biggest things to remember is that is actually just as efficient to use this wireless charging as it is to plug in. But the whole idea is like in certain situations, it could be very nice not to ever have to plug in. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I'm so used to it. But as we get to people who are buying EVs that aren't necessarily enthusiastic about plugging in every night, they just park in their garage and it would start charging, just on whatever schedule they have or whatever.
And we have a full video with them. And they actually said that they're doing testing where they have multiple units that belong to people at the company, and they're, I think, like 8 units, right? Yeah,
they're testing some stuff out. They also announced they have, like those like urban carts that are in certain areas. I know, like there goes my phone. That are like down in Florida, like the communities have those like golf carts, or Catalina Island, for example.
Which is an island near us where you can't have actual big vehicles, only golf carts.
So they, they announced a product so that they can wirelessly charge. And that's sort of very useful because, a lot of times in those tourist areas, you're relying on like renting those out and the tourist has to plug them in, or you have to have like a staff member go out and charge them. But the idea was like you'd pull in to park at the golf club or whatever, and it would start charging. So, I think eventually at some point, wireless car charging is going to be the thing, whether it's in 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Who knows? But I just, I hope Witricity the best of luck. And if we could get a kit, I would be tempted to do that.
Yeah,
depending on the price. Because it's not that big of a deal, but it'd be sort of nice just to drive in. And it's not so much the plugging in. For me, like one of the annoyances with plugging in is like I plug in, and then when I want to run out to the car to get something, that I'm like hopping over the cable.
We do need to work out the cost of the unit, like the adaptation unit and the charging pad itself. But a great point that they had was that this really solves a lot of accessibility issues. If anyone, like our old home, there was no way for me to get to the side of the car in a wheelchair. So charging with mobility issues, even at home, could be an issue. But if you just drive in and then you just have to worry about getting yourself out of the vehicle and you're not trying to navigate over cables or whatever.
And we highlighted one time we were charging level 2 charging at a hotel, and they had it the like charging unit display to activate the charging was accessible, but then it was like, yeah, that's accessible, but to actually plug in the car, there was like bollards and stuff in the way. So I don't know how you would be able to plug in if you were in a wheelchair, but if you this just
solve a lot.
Other manufacturers there just showing awesome stuff. And we didn't get to see the demo of this, but this is the Mercedes G-Wagon electric, and it did like the tank turn thing. They had it like on some wet pavement, and they had like 4 of them like spinning around. We missed that, but we got to see it. It looks cool here. And
I love the wrap.
Yeah, the wrap looked cool. They had an EQS in there as well. Togg. What's the best thing about Togg?
Their coffee.
And?
Their treats.
Yeah.
Togg is a Turkish EV company. They had one of their vehicles. It's TV10 something. I can't remember the name of it. But we didn't prioritize getting it on our schedule, and we were distracted by their delicious coffee and their Turkish treats.
And quite necessary caffeine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Togg is they were at CES last year. They have a really big booth. They're back again. But just one of those companies that until they're actually shipping cars here in the US, it's hard to get too excited about. But I am excited to see them, and I love their coffee, and their cars look pretty good.
Olympian Motors is a company that we saw when the exhibit was closing. I think it was the first day even.
I can't remember.
We were walking around and people were shutting down, and there was a guy just sitting on the floor sort of waiting to finish. And I kind of did a screech halt because the car is gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. And we chatted with him for a second, and he said, come by tomorrow and the CEO will be there. And unfortunately, we had things scheduled and we couldn't. But it's so funny because a friend of mine who's not at all in cars just sent me their WeFunder, and they're doing a huge round of fundraising, and they're almost done with it. So I think they're in New York, and it's this whole Art Deco modular EV thing. And I'm not entirely sure how, but they're envisioning saving 80% of the manufacturing costs.
But this was pricey. I think it was 80 for this.
I don't know. Yeah.
I can't remember. I will just mention it briefly, just because I thought it was cute and neat, and
I think it's adorable.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell this was a prototype, but it looked pretty cool. And if it were cheap, it'd be fun to build it ourselves. I mean, I don't know how it works.
Modular vehicles. I don't know, but now you know.
Just mentioning some other cool things. So this I want to mention in conjunction with, I think, the next slide, which is the boring tunnel, or the Vegas loop, or the Tesla tunnel, or whatever. But I think this is a cool concept. It's actually from Zoox. They're starting to use them in the Bay Area, and they're going to roll them out to some other cities.
We have to go test them.
I believe Phoenix is one. Autonomous. The whole idea is you just sit in there, and it's the passengers are facing each other. little short commutes, great for like running around campuses, and would be great in the Vegas loop, but they only use Teslas. So that's why I sort of mentioned that. But I think we did, we did a video on them at one of the other auto shows. It's cool to know that they are actually being used in the Bay Area now. And we said, can we come up and actually see them on the city street? I don't want to go just sit in it at a CES. I want to go ride in it.
Yeah, we really have to go check it out. It would be super fun. And also, I'm curious, and we haven't been able to see this in action, if they are wheelchair accessible. One of the great things about this design obviously seems that the flat floor is taken fully advantage of. So I don't know if there's some kind of ramp or like how the automated system responds to wheelchair passengers, like if they need more time or what the situation is. So we really need to check this out. You have to let us know down below if you guys would be interested in this, because I sure would.
And then just a photo. We took the loop several times. We may include some more video of this. I don't know. We did a video on it last year about the accessibility. It's not great because if you're in a wheelchair, you have to be transferred into the car, and then they take your wheelchair and put it on the back of a Model X, but they only have like 2 or 3 Model X's running at any time.
And they don't have a transfer board from what I understood.
They didn't look like it.
Yeah, no. I asked them about that, if they had a transfer board. At the time, I was ambulatory, so I could transfer myself. But if someone needed to transfer themselves from the wheelchair,
it was fun riding in the loop. But at the same
fun.
time, there were multiple times where we were stuck in traffic in the loop, waiting for people in other loop cars to get out of our way. And then just sort of like this was at a very slow point, but anytime it was busy, there was like workers everywhere and they're like yelling. And the one time it was quite annoying because, Liv is fairly mobile and quick, but it was like they were yelling like, move up, move up, move up. And I'm like,
go.
Why are you yelling at a person with a prosthetic leg to hurry? And the same thing about getting in and out of the car. It was always like, rush, rush, rush. And I'm like, it's not our fault you have a design where you got to like take your backpack off and scoot into the car. And I don't know.
Yeah, you have to let us know your thoughts as well about this. Cause like it's fun and it's cool. It looks cool. And you get to go like hop on a ride in a Tesla, but it doesn't seem like the best usage of a tunnel under Vegas. Obviously it is what's there and it is what the Boring Company chose to create. So it's nice that there's something, but it certainly seems like there could have been a better something. And like regarding the handicap situation, it's not cool when disabled people have to do something extra or be singled out to utilize the same services that other people do. So we actually stopped at one point and we saw a guy in a wheelchair and we stopped to just make sure that he was being taken care of. But he had to be like, hey, you come here. And like he had to be ferried over to certain spots as opposed to a train station where he could get onto the train and go to the spot where it's wheelchair accessible. So but I don't know.
Just things that we like to think about. But it was cool. And it's fun, to zip around relatively quickly. And
my favorite part is meeting all the drivers. The drivers are very lovely and all the people working there.
But it does seem crazy. Like there was, I think we only shared a car once. So it was like literally one driver driving us to.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like an efficient use of manpower, especially when you have like the Zoox that is completely autonomous.
Yeah.
Flying aircraft
was another buzzword, right?
We didn't do like really any of the flying things. Hyundai had Supernal. This is from XPeng. There was another one that was from
Helix Pivotal.
Pivotal Helix. I don't know.
Helix Pivotal.
All prototypes, all very exciting, but it's just a little bit hard to get too excited about these. Number one, because of cost, and number two, because regulation, and number three, like they're all prototypes.
And I don't know how we would realistically have this in our daily lives. It would be cool.
Yeah, we didn't get too heavily involved in that. But if you're interested, check out some other YouTubers. I'm sure they covered the one from XPeng, this one from Helix Pivotal, and the other one we didn't even stop at was the one from Hyundai that was supernal, right?
Yeah, supernal.
So
Or maybe the Helix from Pivotal. I don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, we'll move on. We did do a lot of meetings. We're going to mention this one. They're a European company that we've talked to previously. We actually talked to somebody from EcoG last year at CES, but they're coming to the US. And this is the example of like the nerdy type stuff that goes on at CES and what occupies a lot of our time. But they do a lot of the behind the scenes software in EV charging over in Europe, and now they're going to be introducing some of that stuff over here in the US. And there's a lot of this type of stuff, a lot of EV charging stuff. You have anything about EcoG or?
Well, we'll have a video coming out on them. We released a short, and someone actually asked like, what are EcoG going to do to make chargers more reliable? And I think it's interesting because like literally the whole purpose of their company is to make chargers reliable. Like that's it. They're the software backend. They're the ones that work to make everything integrated from the vehicle to the charger to everything. And they have, what did they call it? Their EcoG charger test thing.
Oh yeah, they did like a testing protocol to see like how manufacturers of EVs are handling some of the common failures that you might have, and how is it reported, and is it reported correctly? Does the car handle it? So, for example, like if the locking pin, like when you're DC fast charging, is supposed to stay locked, well, what if that doesn't release? Does it tell you as the EV owner that hey, that's a problem? And does it have like a backup? Do they have like a backup mechanism to get it to release and stuff like that? So it's basically trying to make sure there's a lot of protocols out there, and the interpretation and adherence to protocols is not the best. And that's another part of what EcoG is doing.
Yeah, so they're not actually the charging company. They're the software that makes it all work, which is kind of cool. And it's these weird little subsects that we were able to meet and find out about at CES.
Yeah, we'll get into some more EV charging stuff later on because we met some other cool companies and had some meetings. We have some videos that will be coming out as well. So we're excited by that. But we do have to take breaks every once in a while. I love this photo because this was at the very end of one of the days, and we really like even the exhibitors were starting to leave, and Liv's like, I gotta go hug it.
We didn't get to like go play very much because we were trying to make the most of all the time. But if you see a big, fluffy, blue, one-eyed thing with teeth, you have to hug it. I think it was very cute.
So it was a long, long day, and we were almost done, and that made my day. So back to the EV chargers. I want to mention this one. We have a video that will be coming out on this. This is actually really cool. I won't get into it too much here, but this is the first time I've seen something like that. They have the circuit breaker that is smart, and it's in the charger itself. But one of the cool things is like that circuit breaker could also be in the panel, and it's Wi-Fi enabled. So like some of those smart features that are in a lot of smart chargers, the fact that it's on that circuit breaker and it can be in the charger or it can be in the circuit panel gives you some flexibility. So like if you have a detached garage and you don't have Wi-Fi, you put that circuit breaker in the circuit panel, and then that's like that maybe next to your house that does have Wi-Fi. Now you have your smart features. So some other cool stuff from Eaton. Eaton does a lot of other cool things we got into, and we'll do a whole video on them as well, including some like industrial and fleet charging stuff. And we met with ABB. We have a video coming on with Blink charging. We met Star Power. Is that it? Star Power.
Star Power. A whole bunch of charging companies coming out, and it's most interesting to me, in my opinion, because we need them, right? Like we just need a whole bunch of charging companies. Like give us chargers, old chargers everywhere. So we try to touch base with them and see what they're doing, because hopefully we'll just be like overloaded with chargers soon.
Yeah, and we try to talk to the charging companies and see like what are they talking about in the next generation chargers to improve reliability.
Overloaded with reliable chargers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and there's one little story. I won't get into too many details because I don't want to embarrass myself or other people. But we were looking at one charger, and I'm like looking at it and like, and I put the handle back in, and then this guy's like, "What do you think about that?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "The overall thing, or whatever." And I go, "Yeah, this feels a bit cheap." He goes, "Oh, my company makes that," and I was like, "Oh." I'm sorry. But then we got into details. I had a big, long conversation, exchanged cards, so that we're going to keep that conversation open and maybe give some feedback. But
that's CES for you, is that you have these opportunities to get like right up there with people on making this stuff and give them the honest opinion, even if it's not what they want to hear.
Yeah. And then, one of the companies that we've talked to multiple times is Magna. They're so big in the automotive industry. They actually like make the Fisker Ocean, and then Fisker, as soon as it rolls off the assembly line, it becomes Fisker's product and they sell it. Fisker did a lot of the design work, but Magna actually designs a lot of the components. And for example, this isn't the e-drive that's going into Fisker. This is actually a Magna e-drive unit that is like 1/3 the size of current e-drive units or motors. And it's basically, they are becoming experts in so many things, and they are moving into the EV world, or have moved into the EV world. Like they showed us like design changes that they're making to battery enclosures, EV battery enclosures. So it was really cool to meet with them. We have a video coming out on that. And we had a good conversation talking about compromising efficiency or cost, and like which one. So like Lucid, they are very, very efficient, and their motors are very, very expensive. So this one is like they have reduced the size, increased the efficiency, and it's still relatively cheap to manufacture. So trying to get to the future by making the best of all worlds. And then home power, home batteries, solar generators. We hit several companies. As you know, we're interested in this segment.
We are super interested in this segment. Yeah, so we hit all the big players. There was EcoFlow, there was Geniverse, there was Jackery, there was Gendome, a new company that we discovered. Did you know them before?
I did not know them before, and they won't say it because they're not. I don't think they're supposed to. But the batteries that they're using are made. They're the same like origin, connected to the same company, I believe, in some other vehicles such as Rivian. So
yeah.
And I got to verify some of that, but that's like some of the things like, oh, these are the same batteries that are in the Rivian or in this like home battery or whatever. So there's some of it's the portable batteries, some of it's the like wall units or units that can be used in conjunction with like solar or to go off grid, and some very nice like management systems. All of them talk about interoperability, so that if you have smart home, management systems, they can all be integrated.
And like home batteries and things like that are very interesting to us. And part of that is obviously because we have solar. And if you are in California, we got in on the
net metering.
The net metering that we don't need a home battery for. But basically everyone who follows us will most benefit from having a home battery. But even if you aren't in California, having a home battery can really put your utilities back in your own power instead of just being controlled by like someone else being able to tell you how much it is whenever and whatever. So we're really interested in that and smart home and empowering people as well. So we checked out a whole bunch of them.
And we had a meeting with Emporia.
Yeah.
They make one of our favorite EV chargers, the one that we use here at home. And they have some really cool stuff that they're working on. They're still working on vehicle to grid charger, sort of waiting for some of the protocols to be set before they release a product, because they don't want to release it and then have to like change it. But also, of course, home energy management and monitoring, as well as battery storage. And they showed us they are rolling out some really cool like ways to estimate how much it would cost to put solar on your home, and whether you include a battery or not. And the same thing for installing an EV charger. And I think that was one of the neater things, because a lot of people, they have no idea. We've all probably seen these questions pop up in the different forums, like, I got a quote for X number of dollars. Is this a good deal or a bad deal to get an EV charger installed? And they actually have like an online quote system that asks you a few questions, like how far is your panel? Do you have room on your panel? And it, does it in sort of layman's terms. And then it comes up with an estimate that you can then, go out and get somebody. They have connections to like local installers. So anyways, home energy storage and management and all of that, we're going to be covering a lot more of that. I know I owe everybody a solar update, because we've had ours for like 8 months now, and I still haven't done our update. So
last year at CES 2023, we were actually like right at the stage for the Sony press conference, and we got to see them roll out the Afeela, which is at that time was their EV concept. And I guess it's still a concept now, but
still a concept. Still no details on range or power or anything. So,
but we got to get in it, which was pretty great. And we got to see some of what they're planning, which is very Sony. It's very Sony. It's very like gamer forward, tech forward, playful forward.
It's like, I'm torn about this, because last year I got a lot of criticism of like, why would Sony try to make a car? But I sort of get it. It's like we spend a lot of money on our cars, and it's sort of, a lot of us, like the best seating that we own is the seat in our car. And now it's becoming like the best sound system that we have is our sound system in our car. And now it's becoming more common, like we're going to have more screens in our car than we do at home. So I sort of get it. And it's very gaming forward, very entertainment forward. I think we'll do a video on that. We actually had a quick demo of the features, and it was literally like, here, let's do the Spider-Man theme, and the car has Spider-Man everywhere. And it's like, that's not, like, I'm not the market for that, but it's cool.
And things like the passengers watching a movie, and then you stop the car and you want to watch it too, so they could like swipe it over to your screen and like make it go bigger. So yeah, it was definitely like consumption of media and an experience device. But we are early adopters. We're not even early adopters. EVs have been out for a while, but like we're still early adopters, right? But like as the majority of people get into EVs or get into these kind of vehicles, perhaps this is like the essential thing that'll appeal to this target market. I like some things about it, but how do you guys feel about the yoke? How do you feel about it? That's one aspect that they are putting gaming in front of driving most significantly, I think. So they stated that the yoke was literally to act as a game controller and have the game controller vibe, and that they didn't want to have a full steering wheel to block the view of the screens. And that is a strange concept to me, because we don't want to block the view of the road typically. So you have to let us know how you feel about that. Like you said, with it being more screen forward, I guess it makes sense. But
yeah, it's just a little bit weird. The only exciting car tech that they even mentioned was, because of the yoke, they are going to go with steer by wire. I did not even venture to ask the gentleman if it was full steer by wire, or if it was steer by wire with typical mechanical linkage as a backup or anything like that. And that's literally because we were going to get our tour, our demo, and you could tell it was such a scripted tour that it was like, okay, this isn't the person to ask questions. By the time we got to Sony, it was the day where everybody had pretty much left.
Yeah.
If we got to some of those booths earlier, you sometimes get the engineers, which is, like we focused on, some of the EV charging stuff. So we did get to go to some of the EV charging companies and speak to engineers and CEOs and things like that. Sony, we got like a product specialist that literally had a script, and you didn't even want to cough or sneeze or anything like that because that would have thrown them off their script.
But he did a great job.
It was a great job,
Yeah.
but it, you know, and it's no knock on him, but that was his role, is to have this really well scripted, and they were cycling people in and out. But
granted, so we hadn't prioritized going there, but when we went the previous day to look at it, one of the specialists around there, Sydney, he encouraged us to come back. So shout out, thank you for that.
yeah, we you know, because we're small, sometimes these big companies, like they will literally just not even give us a slot at all. So it was nice that we did at least get a slot from Sony. But yeah, sometimes we just sort of get blown off because unless you're like a CNET or car and driver, they don't they don't want to give you any time. So.
Yeah, and we worked really hard to get the slots that we got. For about a month before CES, we were working on getting stuff scheduled so we could have access.
And then at the end of the day, Liv has to hug something somewhere. So
it was so cute.
The Android robots were really cool. You know, they're so cute, and they were all over the Google booth. So that was really cool. One of the things that we almost missed, and you know, part of it was in the outside area, and we were focused on stuff inside. But the other thing is we almost just walked by this because it was just like, oh, it's some grill,
like a food truck.
We were hungry, and they were actually grilling stuff. So we had some like a caprese salad. It was like grilled bread.
I know that doesn't sound like much to be grilled, but it was grilled bread and grilled cheese, and it was a celebrity chef.
But like even the bread was like, it had like a nice smoky flavor, and you could see the smoke. And then later on, we actually had some sausages that were grilled. But this is Current Backyard. Is that what they're calling it?
Current Backyard. Well, I guess they're going by Current for the most part.
Current.
Yeah.
But they basically make an electric grill. I was really impressed with all the technology that they sort of built into this. It actually gets up to like 700 degrees for like, you know, getting those char marks on your steak or whatever.
Well, because we've talked about it, right? Like, we got a gas grill, and I'm a nerd, so I researched the best gas grill. And initially Patrick was like, should we get an electric grill, right? Like, we got to go electric with everything, but you can't quite get it hot enough or just have the same things that you need to make it like a really good steak or really good.
And a lot of them are really small too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did a little bit of research. It was like they're not quite there yet. But this feels like just a nice Weber gas grill, but it's electric, more efficient. And then you know how it goes. It's like the idea that we never have to worry about getting a propane tank
or running out of it when you're like halfway through cooking.
Yeah, that's always the thing. Or, you know, for us, to hop in our EV and take the propane tank and go get it refilled just seems like we're transporting propane in our EV. Just doesn't jive right. But so it seems like a really cool company. They are doing pre-sales now. I think they're shipping in February, which is could be really great timing to build right before spring. We're hoping to try one out, but the sausage and everything was good. The features were good. It has like probes so that you can do some really cool stuff. Like if you're roasting or like cooking like a chicken or something like that, it'll let you know when it hits the right temperature. But it's also app controlled. So like if you have the grill going and you run inside and you're talking to someone and you're like, oh, it's time to turn the grill off, you could literally just do that on the app even. So I thought that was neat.
And the drawers on the inside, instead of being where you house propane, are where you can keep cooking implements and things like that. And they even showed some of the storage. So like the shelves on the side just pop off really, really easily. So it's like a whole bunch of stuff that's more well thought out than you would think for a company you haven't heard of. And then they shared that they're actually basically funded by the same company that owns Charbroil.
Oh, really?
It was a whole list of other companies. Yeah, it was when I was talking to them at the end there. I'm not in the chefing industry, the food industry, but yeah, she listed like Charbroil and all the other companies. So they are the electric offshoot. So like their branding is on point, the vibe is great, and the device itself is like perfectly thought out. It looks like we were kind of expecting, I think, like a startup sort of vibe, but it's not that. So this is not a vehicle. but it's electric.
And this would be like the first price we mentioned in like the whole video, but I think they start at around 800, which is more than a propane grill by far. But it has some advantages. And if you just want to be environmentally conscious, like we have solar, the whole idea is like that could be pretty cool, is like to use our solar, like on one of those bright sunny days and have it going directly to the grill.
Yeah.
That would be sort of cool. So that was sort of like one of the last places we visited, but it's one of my favorites out of all of CES.
Well, it's easy to be excited about something when it tastes so good.
It tasted really good. And we were starving. It's like
we hadn't eaten breakfast.
For the most part, we had great intentions to eat, but then there was the other days we had breakfast, but then we were just so busy we didn't even get lunch. And then the one day we didn't get lunch, and then dinner ended up being at 10. So some people were hangry. Also outside was Kia. So in addition to all their prototype concept stuff with the PBV, they also had the EV3 and the EV4, which concepts, but look very similar to what they already have been producing. So these are very close to production.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest, I really like Kia. I like them a lot. The PBV thing, that just got me feeling really good about them. And then the cars that they make are just so good. We got to sit inside the EV9 for the first time, which was pretty great. And it's just a lovely cabin. It's far too big for us personally, but like the design is just great. The textiles are lovely. It's very spacious. And if you guys know me and my leg situation, I drive with my left leg, so I need a lot of room. Fully spacious, no invasive console. Like they're making the most out of the battery platform and everything. It's just, they're so good.
There's a lot to like about Kia and their like design scheme that's sort of goes throughout their whole lineup is pretty cool as well. And the EV9, I like that blue.
The blue was good, and it was cool to see the EV9 next to the EV3 because it felt like the EV3 was just a little mini. Mini 9, right?
Yeah, they really need to bring these smaller like EV3 over here to the US, which would be really cool.
I get it.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Speaking of cute things.
Let's start with this one from Vinfast. We got Vinfast had a couple of things there that they had like the VF9 we've seen, VF8 we've seen. But they had the wild truck, but they all, this is one we want to start with, the VF3.
It's so cute. And it's just so cute.
By them showing it here gives me hope that they will be bringing this to the U.S. It's supposed to be like $20,000 in Vietnam. Only
this is the dream.
100 and something miles of range, maybe even just 100 miles of range.
I think it was 126 or something.
Yeah, not much range. $20,000, but good grief, this is so cute. It's so freaking small.
It's the dream though, because I have a reservation in for the EX30. Obviously we get a ton more range than that, but like this is so much less. It's like 15,000 less, right? And you get something you can run around town in, and it's small, and we need more small EVs, so we need more things like this. It's just so cute.
And they had the wild truck, which is also, it's like, I think Dominique from the Batteries Included podcast said this best. It's like, why didn't they start with this versus another SUV with the VF8? But if they would have come to the US with an EV truck and been one of the first, like if they would have beat like the Cybertruck out, this could have been amazing. And now it's just a concept who knows when this will actually make it to production. If it makes it to production, they have some significant hurdles. If you don't know, just Google Vinfast and all the stuff will come up. We've covered them a bit, but they're having a lot of quality issues, and not just like in build quality, but in like ride quality and like drivetrain quality that's so bad. People are talking about getting like car sick, and their range is like worst in class. Charging isn't great, but they're building a huge factory in near Raleigh, North Carolina, near where I grew up. So it would be cool to see them succeed. And I do like the design of their cars from the outside, and the design of the Wild and the design of the VF3.
The VF3 is adorable. The Wild looks great to me. I think the VF5 was the only other one that I really loved. But we've been excited about them since they released in LA because we just want more automakers to succeed, want more variety for people. I was surprised when they came into the market. They were just a little more expensive and a little more challenging with their battery model in the beginning and things like that.
They were trying to do
they were like
buy the car, lease the battery.
Yeah,
and
so we were
weird.
like really excited about them, but we're just like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, and and it's like it's not like I hold a grudge against companies. So it's like I could hate the VF4 through 9, but the VF3 is awesome.
So cute.
That's all that matters. It's like I don't really like hold grudges against companies, unless it's like bad service or something like that. On the back end, and then that's something that matters across product lines. Last but not least,
Probably, yeah.
Mullen was there. They displayed their car again. Big fancy showing. There's a little bit of a viral moment where they closed the door and the mirror fell off. I just don't know how this company is like still surviving. Their stock. I don't like getting into stock price because that's just sort of like not a necessarily great way of judging the company. But I think their stock price is like 25 cents now. I just don't see how they're going to make it. But that car looks sort of cool.
Well, and we covered them at the LA Auto Show 3 years ago or something.
2021.
Yeah. So, and the number one comment that we get on that video is about the stock. So I feel like that probably clears up what the whole vehicle is about.
It feels like a lot of people are just looking at it as like a, a way to potentially, if it goes up to $1,
sell.
So anyways, but that's pretty much our like wrap up of.
I like the color in the wheels though.
Yeah.
The wheels look great.
Yeah, they do some really cool stuff with their colors and whatnot, and the interior looks like very premium, but whatever. So anyways, overall CES, like we said, it was fantastic. We were excited to talk to the charging companies. That's not super sexy or anything like that. It's not like a bunch of AI, transparent TV hype stuff. But there's a lot of information coming from the EV charging companies. We can't go into specifics on some of it, but they do have, ideas of how to address reliability issues.
It's coming.
And it's basically, I'll just say this, like some of them talked about like the issues previously with charging. A lot of it was learning what to do and what not to do. But the other part of it was just patching stuff together and, from different vendors and stuff like that. So you can see like things are starting to align. It's not taking stuff off the shelf. It's designing it from scratch to all work together. So I think the next generation chargers are going to be a lot more reliable from everyone. So that's exciting. There's a lot of exciting stuff with V2G stuff.
Obviously, everyone's incorporating NACS. So
everybody had a NACS answer. For them, it's complicated only in the fact they have to do a lot of certification testing and paperwork. But for us as the consumers, it's going to be, or from like a business that puts in a charger and then in a year they want to switch to NACS. They don't have to do all the paperwork. They just order an upgrade kit and they get the NACS adapter and then they're good to go. So it's not that big of a deal. I was also excited by all of the home power, smart home stuff, because I think that's going to be like, that's an underestimated area of growth is, as we start getting into EVs, more and more talk about the grid is going to be there. And one of the advantages of having like home power, smart home power monitoring, all of that stuff all is going to tie together and is going to actually make the grid stronger, more resilient. And it's just, the idea that we can shift energy usage and have green energy storage, basically batteries. I'm sure you guys have been to festivals where they have like food trucks and you just hear like generator after generator going. And then now we can have these portable batteries, some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and you'll have to let us know what your favorite thing was if we missed something really cool, which we did. There are, how big is it? It's very big.
2.5 million square feet. We did like over 5 miles a day, which
It wasn't actually as much as we were thinking we'd do.
Because we did like, we went to Disney World. I think we were doing like 10 miles a day or something like that.
But this is a lot of standing because you will walk and then stop and then talk for like 2 hours and then walk and then stop.
Yeah, it was so much standing.
So worth it though.
So yeah, the idea is like we are going to premiere this video and answer a lot of questions in the chat. Which we probably should have said at the beginning, but we'll somehow do that.
Maybe we'll put that
but
there.
We'll answer questions in the comments. If there are companies that you want us to reach out to, let us know. Some of the companies we can literally reach out and say like, hey, can you review your product? Or we have a viewer with this question. So just let us know. And, we'll try to do our best to answer all those questions and explore some more of this stuff. But also just let us know your thoughts on stuff like the Kia concepts, the Honda concepts. What was your favorite? Which was like the least favorite? And what is stuff that you care about? And what is stuff that you have absolutely no care in the world?
And on that note, thank you so much for joining us for this video in which we went into our favorite things in the EV realm, smart home, sustainability, whatever, at CES 2024. Huge thank you to our patrons whose names are scrolling across the screen. You guys literally help.
You got to get up.
Scrolling across the screen. You literally helped us get to CES because it's very expensive. But seriously, thank you for watching this video and liking it because it's a lot to qualify to get to CES. So it's a big deal. Anyways, and on that note, just remember that whatever you drive, whether it was at CES or not, enjoy the ride.
Yeah, it looks like a Hoover.
Dustbuster.
Dustbuster. Or not. Bye.
Bye.